So what is your favorite card so far from Duskmourn that you would love to play in Standard? Welcome back to MTG Tuesday's Tips and Tricks, as we are probably doing our last episode on getting into Standard. We've talked a little bit about everything of how to get into Standard, what to do, the steps to take, sideboarding, things along those lines. If there's something you think I've missed, feel free to reach out to me. Would love to add some more to this, but today we're kind of just talking about fine-tuning your deck and realistically what you should have in every deck, regardless of what color you're running or whatever. The choice is yours, what you want to run. There's such a variety you can run. You can run horror theme, you can run animal theme, you can run mono red, you can run meta decks, things like that. There's a lot of stuff out there, and you can run it, and it does well, and you can have fun doing it. The one thing, though, to keep in mind, though, is you definitely want to keep in mind when you're playing the deck that don't just go super heavy on creatures and card draw and all that stuff. Those things are important. But realistically, you need to remember to run plenty of some interaction for removal, whether that's a counter spell if you're running blue, or a bounce spell if you're running blue, or some form of removal. Cheap removal is important, especially in this is quick. There's things that can win on turn 2, turn 3 if not taken care of. So you want to try to run 1 and 2 mana removal spells. That way you can kind of interact with things, make sure you have enough. Even if you just put a couple in your sideboard, you have 1 or 2 in your main board. Find ways to do it. If you're running red, you have burn spells you could use. There's not as many, but you could also include those in your sideboard. So just in case you're like, oh man, I do need to remove some stuff here, let me pull it in. My deck isn't fast enough to beat them or whatever. But you want those kind of interactions and things like that to slow down the opponent, because if not, you can just run all the creatures you want out. But here's the problem: if you don't have ways of stopping them, it's not as much as a commander where you have other people who might be able to have interactions. Solely you that have to take care of people. So if you don't have a way of removing their threat or their problem, then you're just going to probably end up losing to it. You could keep running every turn a creature out, but if they're not big enough to get through, you can't get by their big creature, they're swinging out at you and doing a bunch of damage, then you're in trouble. So make sure you're running plenty of interaction in your decks. I would recommend cut down and go for the throat, shoot the sheriff. Those are some of the really good ones in Magic the Gathering currently for mono black, or if you're running black. White has a bunch. Elspeth Smite. There is the new one that's like a 1 color that lets them manifest dread. It's a 1/1 removal, so it can get rid of a bad threat to get a new threat possibly, but it's just a 2/2 for the time being. You have lots of counter spells and bounce spells. Into the Flood Maw is one of the best spells in blue right now, because it's 1 to bounce anything where you can, I think, give them a card or give them a fish to bounce a non-land permanent. So if they've got something that you're like, I don't have a way to get rid of this right now to slow it down, you can do that as well. Green has fight spells if you're running green, and then red has their burn spells. They have some that go up to like 5 or 6, but you want to keep them as lower as possible. 2 or 3 mana is the max you really want to be spending on removal spells. You can have them in your deck. Don't overdo it with removal. And also I would recommend too, whether it's in your sideboard or not, have some form of board wipe, because there are going to be those decks that are going to put a bunch of 1/1s and 2/2s and stuff down. You want a way to get all those off the board real fast, or else you're in trouble. Convoke decks and things like that, because you don't want to just, if they put like 3 creatures out, you can't just use all your removal on the 3 little creatures that are like 1/1s. But if you have ways of giving things -1, -1, or -2, -2, or doing 3 damage to all creatures or 2 damage to all creatures, there's a bunch of those out there. Run those in your sideboard, so that way you have ways of slowing down those kind of token generation decks and stuff like that. So, well, that is the kind of a summary of how to get into Standard. Might be doing some more things in the near future about building a Standard deck and what you want to include in it and stuff like that. But for now, the tips and tricks for Standard are over. We're going to probably move into either another format or talking about something else. Let us know in the console maybe something you'd like to get some tips and tricks on. And thank you guys so much for being here. As always, we'll see you next time.